sitting up here and I'm thinking, a lobbyist, a lawyer, and an insurance salesman walk into a bar. And the bartender says, what is this, some kind of a joke? It's sort of the way you feel walking into this place, you know, they walk into a medical marijuana convention and it just seems like there's something wrong with this. But that's not the case at all. I am a business real estate lawyer. I've been doing it for 30 years. I became involved in the MMJ industry about a year and a half ago when some of my landlord clients, older guys, gray hair, Republicans, conservative, all of a sudden discovered that they could rent their empty industrial spaces to growers. And I thought, marijuana, huh? Sure, why not? That's legal, isn't it? And I got started then. By the way, they've converted. They love the industry now. I never thought I'd see that in my lifetime. I guess it was in May of this year, I began studying HB 1284 about a month before it was signed into law. And I wanted to see what it was about. I wanted to understand it. On June the 7th, Governor Ritter signed it into law. On June the 8th, which was a Tuesday, here at the Colorado Convention Center, there was a little get-together. It was downstairs. There were maybe 600, 650 people. KUSH was one of the sponsors of this thing. I don't know if they had the timing down perfectly, but they had this panel up here. There were some lawyers that had been heavily involved. There was Matt Cook was here. I remember Matt Tavert was here from Safer, and they in essence did the victory lap. I don't know if any of you folks were here for this, but by God, those were heady days. Everybody was high on the success. It was great. At the end of it, they had this little Q&A session, and people lined up to the back of the room. And as I sat there listening, I realized that fully a third of the questions were along the lines of, so how do I structure my business now? How do I be in compliance with this? And I had my light bulb moment right then. I thought, we have shifted from those lawyers on the panel, every one of them was a criminal defense lawyer. We shifted in that moment from this being about staying out of jail to how do I run my business? How do I make money doing this? This is what this conference is about. Look at those booths. These are business people. And so having a lobbyist, having a software developer, having a lawyer here, this actually makes sense. So, you know, the 10 of you that are here and the tens of thousands that are watching this on the internet, this makes sense. You should be paying attention. Those people out there should be paying attention to this. Because now we've shifted to watching how much I spend for things, marketing, providing insurance benefits for my employees, and most importantly, being in compliance with the law. I mean, this is an interesting industry because half the people in this, we're doing this stuff completely outside the law. And those that want to do this successfully have to do it in compliance with two things. One is the law. They have to know what the Colorado Medical Marijuana Code, that's what 1284 is now called, the CMMC, what it says, and that will be changing in the next legislative session, what it says. And the second thing is, how am I a good business person? So if you folks don't have a business lawyer, if you don't have an accountant, a CPA to work with you, if you don't have an insurance salesman that you talk to about insuring your business, you need to get those. We are people who are service providers. We all have a lot of experience helping businesses, and some of us know quite a bit about the MMJ industry. I urge you to do that. When I was talking to people back in those heady days, June, July, where the existing businesses were trying to comply with the July 1 deadline, the August 1 deadline, the September 1 deadline, what I saw happening was this. I have my grow. There's this guy over there that has a dispensary. I have my dispensary, your grow. And what they were having difficulty doing, and what is still happening to this day, is people are having a hard time understanding that this is one business. It's not my grow your dispensary, it's our business. You cannot have a dispensary without growing 70% of your own. You cannot have a grow without having also an MMC or an MIP license. You can't do that. And so you end up with people doing this. I bear all the expenses of growing pot, and then I'm going to sell it to the dispensary side, and they're going to give me money as if they're buying it wholesale. And then they're saying, I'm buying the marijuana from you, and now I bear the expenses of running this thing as a successful business. The people who are able to integrate those two and realize it's our business, and you cannot have success on one side, failure on the other. It has to be success on both. Those are the people who will become successful in this. Now, we've been given, about 10, 15 minutes each. I don't have a lot of time to go into what the law says. Those of you, does anybody here have an MMC? Anybody? Not too many people. Okay, anybody doing edibles in MIP? We've got one back here. Great. You folks are the portion that the law dealt with that said, what do we do with existing businesses? The CMMC had two aspects to it. One, how do we set up new businesses? That is coming into effect. The other portion was, how do we take businesses that are here on the ground and bring them into the system? That is what we're in the middle of. Okay. Does anybody here have an interest in potentially starting a licensed business in the industry? Anybody looking at that? A few more hands. For you, this is going to be much more important because we'll let go for now what happened with existing businesses. If you want to have a new business, this is what the law says you will do. Number one, you go to your locality, whether it's a city or whether it is the unincorporated portion of the county, and you put in an application for local permission to do that. Number two, you take that local permission and you take it to the state and apply for their license, period. Now, how do you apply to the locality? The localities have been tasked with the statute, with the CMMC, with developing local rules on applying for the local license. The state has empowered the cities and the counties to develop their own standards. This is what it says. I'm going to read to you briefly from the statute. A local licensing authority shall not issue a local license unless the governing body has adopted an ordinance or resolution containing specific standards for license issuance. Okay? Next sentence. If no such ordinance or resolution is adopted before July 1, 2011, then a local licensing authority shall consider the minimum licensing requirements of the CMMC. In other words, they turned to them and said, you've got till July 1 to pass your local rules on what you want to happen.